She was having dinner with her fiancé, laughter, candles, everything perfect. But when the waiter leaned in and whispered, "Run now," her heart froze. In that moment, love turned to fear, and her world would never be the same again. Before we dive in, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching? The night sky over Manhattan shimmered with 1,000 golden lights as Evelyn Carter stepped out of her black limousine in front of the Golden Ivy, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. Inside, the air was warm, filled with the scent of roasted truffle and candle wax, laughter echoing softly from tables draped in silk. The night was supposed to be perfect. The celebration of her engagement to Ryan Blake, the man she believed was her forever. Evelyn had built her fortune through her own brilliance. A self-made tech entrepreneur at 27, she had become an inspiration for countless young women who dreamed of turning ideas into empires. Yet despite her success, she carried her father's memory like a quiet shadow, a man who had taught her that success without integrity was failure in disguise. Ryan, on the other hand, was everything the world called perfect, handsome, eloquent, and born into wealth. His confidence was magnetic, his charm carefully measured. To the public, they looked like a power couple destined to rule New York's business world. But beneath Evelyn's smile that night, there was a faint unease she couldn't explain. The restaurant glittered like a dream. Chandeliers cast golden circles across crystal glasses. A pianist played soft jazz, while waiters in white gloves moved with the elegance of a ballet. Evelyn sat beside Ryan, her hand resting lightly on his. Across from them sat her mother Helen, graceful and proud, hiding her tears of happiness behind a calm smile. As dinner reached its final course, a young waiter approached their table, tall, slightly nervous, with kind eyes that didn't match his uniform stiffness. His name tag read Ethan. He poured water into Evelyn's glass, his movements deliberate. But then, as his hand brushed close to hers, his voice dropped to a whisper so faint it barely touched the air. "If you trust me," he murmured, eyes locked with hers. "Run, now." For a second, Evelyn thought she'd misheard. Run, why? The hum of conversation continued. The music didn't stop. Yet something in his gaze, sharp, urgent, pleading, sent a chill down her spine. Her fingers tightened on her napkin. Ryan laughed beside her, unaware, talking about their honeymoon plans. Her mother was smiling politely, oblivious to the sudden thunderstorm rising in her daughter's chest. Evelyn looked up at Ethan, but he was already walking away, disappearing behind the rows of diners like a ghost swallowed by the light. Her heart pounded. She glanced around the restaurant, and that's when she saw them. Two men sitting near the bar in dark suits, identical, their eyes hidden behind glass reflections. They weren't eating. They were watching. Not just anyone, they were watching her. Evelyn's instincts flared. Something was wrong. Terribly wrong. "I'll be right back," she said quickly, forcing a smile as she stood. "Just need a moment." Ryan looked up. "You okay?" "Yes, just the restroom," she replied. But her voice trembled ever so slightly. She walked away, heels clicking softly on the marble floor. Once inside the elegant restroom, she took out her phone, or tried to. Her clutch was empty. The phone she'd used only minutes ago was gone. Panic crawled up her throat. She checked the counter, the bag again, everywhere. Nothing. Her reflection in the mirror stared back, the image of a woman suddenly unsure of the world around her. The words echoed in her mind. "If you trust me, run." She turned off the tap, trying to calm her breathing. Maybe it was a prank. Maybe Ethan had mistaken her for someone else. Maybe a muffled crash echoed from the dining hall. The music stopped. Then came the shattering of glass. Evelyn's pulse spiked. She pushed open the restroom door and froze. The restaurant was chaos. People screamed as waiters rushed toward the source of commotion. One of the dark-suited men from the bar was standing now, speaking into a small earpiece. His eyes met hers. Ethan appeared out of nowhere. "Evelyn!" he hissed, grabbing her wrist. "We have to go, now!" She pulled back, startled. "What's happening? Who are you?" "No time!" His voice was urgent but low. "They're here for you." Please trust me." She looked toward Ryan, who was standing by their table, phone to his ear, strangely calm amid the panic. Their eyes met, and something inside her broke. His expression wasn't fear. It was recognition. He knew. Without another word, Ethan pulled her toward the kitchen. The smell of seared meat and steam filled the air as they burst through the swinging doors. Cooks shouted in confusion as pots clattered. The heat and noise blurred around them. Ethan led her past the stoves, the silver trays, the startled faces. "Where are we going?" she cried. "A service exit! Hurry!" Behind them, heavy footsteps echoed. Someone was following. The kitchen lights flickered, dimmed, then went black for a moment, the power cutting out. Panic spread through the staff. The sound of boots drew closer. Ethan shoved open a steel door at the far end. A gust of cold air hit them. They stumbled into a narrow corridor lit by a single flickering bulb. The air smelled of damp concrete and old grease. Ethan didn't stop until they reached a rusted service elevator shaft. "Ethan, please," she panted, "tell me what's going on." He turned to her, breath heavy, eyes full of urgency. "Your fiancé isn't who you think he is. You're in danger because of him, because of something he's hiding. If you want to live, don't ask questions now. Just follow me." Evelyn stared, her mind spinning. The world she knew, her company, her relationship, her perfect life, felt like it was cracking open. She wanted to demand answers, but the sound of approaching voices silenced her hesitation. Ethan pried open a maintenance hatch beside the elevator and motioned her inside. They climbed down a narrow ladder into the basement. The sound of the city faded above them, replaced by the hum of machinery and dripping water. It was cold, the kind of cold that seeps into the bones. As they moved through the underground corridor, Evelyn's thoughts raced. Ryan had been on the phone during the chaos. The men in suits had been watching her, not him. The waiter, Ethan, had known her name. And that whisper, it hadn't been random. It had been planned. Finally, Ethan stopped near an old metal door. He pressed his ear against it, listening, then nodded. "We can rest here for a moment." Inside was a small storage room, dusty shelves, broken chairs, and the faint smell of oil. Evelyn leaned against the wall, shaking. "Why me? What do they want?" Ethan hesitated. "Because you're about to inherit something you don't even know exists. Your father's company wasn't just a charity foundation, Evelyn. He left behind evidence, files that could destroy men like Marcus Kane and everyone tied to him. Ryan included." Her breath caught. "You knew my father." "I worked for him," Ethan said quietly. "Until the night he died." Evelyn's chest tightened. "That was an accident." "No," Ethan interrupted softly. "It wasn't, and they've been watching you ever since." The silence that followed was heavy. Somewhere in the distance, faint sirens wailed. Evelyn closed her eyes, fighting the tears that burned behind them. Her father's death had been the wound she never fully healed. To think it might have been murder, it felt like the ground beneath her had vanished. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Ethan looked at her with quiet resolve. "We survive tonight, then we find the truth." A distant explosion trembled through the floor, faint but unmistakable. Dust fell from the ceiling. Evelyn gasped. Ethan turned toward the sound, jaw tight. "They've destroyed the restaurant," he said grimly. "They're erasing everything." Evelyn's throat went dry. Her mother, Ryan, the guests. "No, my mother was there. She's fine," Ethan assured her quickly. "I saw her leave before the chaos." Ryan made sure of that. "He's not after her. They only want you." The words chilled her blood. "Why me?" "Because your father trusted you more than anyone. And because Ryan needs what you have, or what he thinks you have." Evelyn sank to the floor, trembling. Her world, her love, her faith, her safety had shattered in a single night. The image of Ryan's calm face haunted her. The man she planned to marry might have been the one orchestrating her destruction. Ethan crouched beside her, voice gentle now. "Evelyn, listen to me. You have two choices. Keep running and live in fear, or face this, and finish what your father started." Her tears finally fell, silent but fierce. Somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear, a small flame began to burn, the same fire that had once driven her to build an empire from nothing. She looked up, eyes steady despite the chaos. "Then we fight," Ethan nodded once, relief flickering across his face. Good, because they're not expecting you to fight back. Above them, the city carried on, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath its glittering skyline. And in that dim underground room, surrounded by shadows and secrets, Evelyn Carter made the choice that would change her life forever. The night air outside was cold and sharp as Evelyn followed Ethan through a narrow service tunnel beneath the streets of Manhattan. The noise of the city above was distant now, muffled like another world. The hum of pipes and the drip of water were the only sounds, punctuated by her ragged breathing. She clutched the side of her coat, trying to keep her balance on the damp floor. Ethan's flashlight beam danced ahead, revealing graffiti-covered walls and old warning signs from decades past. The tunnel smelled of rust and forgotten history. Evelyn's heels clicked against the concrete until she finally slipped them off, holding them. In one hand, "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice breaking the silence. "To someone who can help," Ethan replied without looking back. "But we have to stay underground for now. They'll be searching every street by morning." "They?" Evelyn's tone was sharp. "You keep saying they. Who are you talking about?" Ethan stopped abruptly and turned to face her. The beam of light caught the intensity in his eyes. "The men who work for Marcus Kane. The same man your father tried to expose before he died. And the same man Ryan Blake is protecting." Evelyn's breath caught. The name hit her like a ghost from her childhood. "Marcus Kane. My father mentioned him once. A business partner, I thought." "A cover," Ethan said darkly. "Marcus runs a web of shell companies that launder billions through charities and tech ventures. Your father found proof of it. That's why he died." Evelyn felt her legs weaken. She steadied herself against the wall, her mind spinning. "And Ryan? He's part of this?" Ethan hesitated. "He was hired to get close to you, to find your father's data buried somewhere in your systems. But I think," he paused, searching for the right words, "I think he fell for you in the process, which makes him dangerous to both sides." Evelyn wanted to scream. The man she loved, the man she trusted, had been lying from the start. Every romantic gesture, every promise of forever, all part of a plan. Yet beneath the anger, there was still confusion. If Ryan truly loved her, why was he helping destroy her life? They walked for another 10 minutes before Ethan pushed open a metal door that led into what looked like an abandoned subway maintenance area. A few flickering bulbs hung overhead, casting pale circles of light. Piles of old equipment lay forgotten in corners. The place smelled of dust and oil. "Wait here," Ethan said. "I need to make sure it's safe." He disappeared behind a stack of crates. Evelyn sank onto a bench, clutching her heels like a weapon she'd never dare to use. Her mind was a storm, memories flashing like lightning. Her father's funeral, the day she met Ryan, the promise he'd made to always protect her. And now this, running through tunnels with a stranger while her world crumbled above ground. When Ethan returned, he carried a small duffel bag and a steaming cup of coffee he'd managed to find from a vending machine. "Drink," he said quietly. "You need the energy." She accepted it silently, her hands trembling slightly. The warmth was grounding. After a moment, she asked, "Why are you helping me? You could have stayed out of this." He looked down, his expression unreadable. "Because your father once saved my life. He believed in giving second chances. I owed him, and you deserve to know the truth." Evelyn looked at him for a long moment. There was no deceit in his tone, only conviction. "What did my father find, Ethan? What's so dangerous that people would kill to hide it?" Ethan sat opposite her, leaning forward. He discovered that Marcus's company, Titan Global, was stealing funds meant for humanitarian programs and rerouting them through offshore accounts. Billions. Your father's foundation unknowingly became part of that chain. When he realized it, he tried to expose Marcus. But before he could, there was an accident, a car crash that killed him instantly. Except it wasn't an accident. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears she refused to shed. "And the files. You said something about data. Your father encrypted everything. He stored the evidence somewhere only you can access. He used your name as part of the encryption key." Marcus and Ryan have been trying to crack it for years. Evelyn shook her head. I don't know anything about it. Maybe not consciously, Ethan said. But your father trusted you. He left breadcrumbs, things you wouldn't notice unless you were looking. Evelyn stared at her reflection in a metal panel. Across the room, the face of a woman who had everything yet knew nothing about her own life. Then I need to find it, she said finally. If that's what they want, I'll get to it first. Ethan smiled faintly, admiration glinting in his tired eyes. That's the spirit your father had. Before Evelyn could respond, a distant sound echoed through the tunnels, the faint hum of an engine, the crunch of boots. Ethan's head snapped up. They've found us, he whispered. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward another passage. Come on, there's an old station ahead. If we reach it, we can disappear. They ran again, through darkness, through the hum of the city's underbelly. Evelyn's heart hammered as adrenaline replaced fear. Behind them, flashlight beams swept across the walls. Voices shouted orders. The chase had begun. Ethan turned sharply into a side corridor, guiding her through a narrow doorway. They emerged into what looked like an abandoned subway platform. Old posters peeled from the walls, and rats scurried in the distance. A derelict train car stood motionless on the tracks. In here, Ethan said, climbing into the car and helping her up. Inside, it smelled of rust and dust, but it was shelter. He dimmed his flashlight and crouched near a window, watching the tunnel entrance. The footsteps grew louder, closer, then passed. The searchlights faded away. For a long time, neither spoke. The tension hung heavy in the air. Finally, Evelyn whispered, "What happens now?" Ethan leaned back against the metal wall. "We find someone who can decrypt your father's files. I know a man, a journalist who once worked with your father. He's off the grid now, but if anyone can help, it's him." Evelyn nodded slowly. "And then?" "Then we expose them," Ethan said simply. "Marcus, Ryan, all of them." She stared out the cracked window, watching the tunnel's darkness swallow the faint light. "Do you think Ryan knew my father was murdered?" "Yes," Ethan said quietly. "And deep down, you already knew that too." The words cut deep, but Evelyn didn't argue. Somewhere in her heart, she had sensed Ryan's walls, the secrets behind his perfect smile. She'd ignored them, blinded by love. Now, all she felt was fire. Hours later, dawn began to filter faintly through the grates above, turning the underground station into a wash of grey. Ethan handed her a small jacket from his bag. "We'll move once the streets are quieter. Until then, try to rest." Evelyn lay back against the metal bench, exhaustion finally overtaking her. The rhythmic hum of the city above lulled her toward sleep. But before she closed her eyes, she whispered, "Do you really think we can beat them?" Ethan's answer came softly. "Your father believed truth is like sunrise. It always finds a way through the dark." "I believe that too," Evelyn smiled faintly, her eyes drifting shut. For the first time since that terrible night began, she felt a spark of hope. But far above them, in a sleek penthouse overlooking the city, Ryan Blake stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. His voice was cold, steady. "She's alive," he said to the man on the other end. "And she's not alone." The reply came through with a hint of menace. "Then find her, Ryan, before she finds the truth." Ryan lowered the phone, his reflection staring back at him, a man torn between ambition and love, trapped in the web he helped spin. Outside, the first light of morning crept across the skyline, casting long shadows over the city that never slept. And beneath those streets, a woman who had lost everything was preparing to rise again, stronger, fiercer, unstoppable. The morning sunlight streamed through the cracks in the subway tunnel, thin and ghostly, falling across Evelyn's face as she stirred awake. Her body ached from the cold, but her mind was sharper than ever. The images of the previous night flashed before her eyes. The shattered glass, Ryan's unreadable face, Ethan's hand pulling her through the chaos. Her world had collapsed. Yet somewhere inside, a spark of defiance had ignited. Ethan was already awake, standing near the tunnel's entrance, scanning a small map on his phone. "We move in 10 minutes, he said quietly when he noticed her awake. "The city will be busy by now. It's easier to blend in with the noise." Evelyn stood, brushing the dust from her clothes. Her once perfect hair was tangled, her designer dress torn at the hem. She didn't look like the poised millionaire the magazines loved. She looked human, raw, and alive. "Where are we going?" she asked. "To the East Side," Ethan replied. "An old contact of mine, a journalist named Daniel Cross. He worked with your father on a few investigations before everything went wrong." "He's the only one I trust," Evelyn nodded. The thought of her father's past still felt like walking through fog. Every step revealed more shadows. She followed Ethan up a narrow staircase that led to a forgotten maintenance exit. When they finally pushed open the door, the rush of city air hit her face. The world above had moved on as if nothing had happened. Cars honked, people rushed to work, and billboards blinked with the latest tech news, some of them advertising her own company's products. She pulled her hood up and kept her head low as they blended into the morning crowd. Ethan led the way through narrow alleys and side streets until they reached a rundown apartment building that looked abandoned. The elevator was broken, so they climbed the stairs to the 4th floor, where Ethan knocked twice in a specific rhythm. The door opened a moment later. A man in his 50s stood there, unshaven, tired eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "Ethan," he said cautiously, "you brought company." "This is Evelyn Carter," Ethan said. "John Carter's daughter." Daniel's expression changed instantly. He stepped aside, motioning them in. "Then you better come inside. You've just stepped into the fire your father started." The apartment was cluttered with papers, old computers, and walls lined with photographs connected by red strings. Evelyn felt like she'd walked into a conspiracy thriller. On one wall, she spotted a faded picture of her father, smiling beside Daniel. Her heart clenched. Daniel poured 3 cups of coffee and sat opposite them. "I always knew this day would come," he said. "Your father told me if anything happened to him, it would mean Marcus Kane had finally crossed the line. I didn't think his own daughter would be the next target." Evelyn leaned forward. "Ethan said my father left something behind, files, evidence. We need to find it." Daniel nodded slowly. "He did, but he hid it well. John was smart. He knew Marcus had eyes everywhere. The last time we met, he told me he encrypted everything inside a private cloud server linked to his foundation system. But there's a catch. It can only be unlocked using a biometric key tied to his heir." "My heir?" Evelyn frowned. "You mean me?" Daniel nodded. "Your DNA, your voice pattern, everything about you was part of the security code. You're the only one who can open it." Ethan leaned forward. "Can we access it here?" Daniel gestured toward a dusty computer. "If you give me a few hours, maybe. But if Marcus's people are already searching, we might not have that long." Evelyn clenched her fists. "We don't have hours. Ryan will be looking for me." At the mention of his name, Daniel's expression darkened. "Ryan Blake," he said slowly. "I know that name. He was involved in a deal Marcus made 5 years ago, a merger that disappeared millions in relief funds. I should have realized sooner who he was." Ethan looked at Evelyn. "He's part of this. We have to assume he's already informed Marcus." For a moment, silence filled the room. Evelyn stared out the window at the glittering skyline. It was strange how beautiful the city could look while hiding so much rot beneath its surface. She had built her fortune here, believing in progress, innovation, the good of people. But now she saw the truth. Power without morality was just corruption in disguise. "Then let's finish what my father started," she said, her voice steady. "Let's expose them." Daniel smiled faintly. "Your father would have said the same thing." They began working immediately. Ethan secured the door while Daniel set up the computer system. Evelyn provided the necessary access credentials to her foundation's servers. As the files loaded, lines of encrypted code filled the screen, each one like a digital lock waiting to be broken. Hours passed. The tension in the room thickened. Outside, the sky grew darker with approaching rain. Finally, the computer beeped, a low, ominous sound, and the screen flashed a message. "Voice authentication required. Evelyn Grace Carter." "Say something," Daniel said. Evelyn hesitated, then whispered, "My name is Evelyn Carter, daughter of John Carter." The system processed for a moment. Then the screen flickered and changed. Dozens of folders appeared, each labeled with cryptic titles: Titan Investments, Project Halo, Offshore Logs, Ryan Blake. Evelyn's heart skipped a beat. "Open that one," she said, pointing to the last folder. Daniel double-clicked it. A series of photographs appeared. Ryan standing beside Marcus Kane at private events, signing contracts, shaking hands with government officials. There were also financial records linking Ryan's investment firm to Titan Global's offshore accounts. Proof of everything. Evelyn's stomach turned. "It's true," she whispered. "He used me." Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "We'll use this to take them down. You can release it to the press." Daniel nodded grimly. "I can send it to every major outlet, but once it's out, you'll have a target on your back. They won't stop until they silence you, too." Evelyn took a deep breath. "I've been silent long enough." Just as she spoke, the lights flickered. Daniel froze. "That's not good." Seconds later, the apartment door burst open. Two men in tactical black stepped inside with weapons drawn. "Down!" Ethan shouted, pulling Evelyn behind the table. Daniel hit a switch that plunged the room into emergency lighting. Chaos erupted. Ethan fought one of the men near the door, managing to disarm him, while Evelyn scrambled toward the laptop. She yanked the power cord free and clutched it to her chest. The files, she had to save them. "Go!" Ethan yelled, blocking a punch and slamming his attacker into the wall. "Take the back stairs!" Evelyn ran. Her heart pounded as gunshots echoed through the hallway. She didn't look back. She tore down the stairwell, the laptop heavy in her arms. The rain outside had turned the streets into rivers of silver light. She pushed through a back alley, shivering as thunder rumbled above. Moments later, Ethan stumbled out after her, limping, blood staining his sleeve. "You okay?" he asked breathlessly. She nodded, clutching the laptop. "We have it. We can end this." Ethan looked at her, proud, determined. "Then we do it your way now." They found shelter beneath a bridge, the rain masking their breaths. Evelyn connected the laptop to a portable Wi-Fi hub and sent the files to Daniel's encrypted server, ensuring the evidence was safe even if they were caught. But before she could finish, a car pulled up on the street above. Headlights pierced the rain. A familiar voice echoed through the darkness. "Evelyn," Ryan called out. "Please, stop running." Evelyn froze. The sound of his voice was enough to twist the knife in her heart. Ethan motioned for her to stay quiet, but she shook her head. "I need to end this," she whispered, stepping out from under the bridge. Ryan stood in the rain, his expensive suit drenched, his expression unreadable. "You don't understand," he said. "You're walking into something bigger than both of us. Then tell me the truth," she shouted. "Did you love me, or was it all a lie?" Ryan's eyes softened for a moment. "I did love you," he said quietly. "But I can't change what I am. Marcus owns everything. My company, my future, my life. If I betray him, I'm dead." "Then die with a soul," Evelyn said coldly. "Because I'm not living without one." She turned away, walking back toward Ethan, the rain washing tears from her cheeks. Ryan didn't follow. He stood motionless as thunder cracked above, his figure swallowed by shadows. Ethan met her halfway, his voice low but steady. "You did good," Evelyn nodded, her jaw firm. "No, Ethan, we're not done yet. Tomorrow, the world will know who Marcus Kane really is." Above them, lightning flashed across the sky, the storm finally breaking. Beneath that violent light, Evelyn Carter stood reborn, no longer the girl who lived in glass towers, but a woman forged by truth and loss, ready to fight back against the darkness that had stolen her peace. The world woke up to chaos. By sunrise, every major news outlet was ablaze with the same headline: Titan Global Scandal, billion-dollar corruption exposed. The leaked documents had gone viral overnight. Evelyn Carter's name was everywhere, but this time not as the glamorous face of innovation. She was the woman who dared to bring an empire to its knees. Inside a quiet safe house on the city's outskirts, Evelyn sat by a window, her laptop open, the faint glow reflecting in her tired eyes. Rain still trickled outside, soft and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the world calming after the storm. Ethan stood nearby, bandaging his arm, while Daniel scrolled through his phone, reading the flood of public reactions. "They're calling you the Iron Heart of Manhattan," Daniel said with a faint smile. "The woman who fought the machine." Evelyn didn't smile back. Her gaze stayed fixed on the horizon. "And Marcus?" Daniel's smile faded. "He's denying everything. Claims the files were fabricated. But the pressure's mounting. The FBI's already moving in. Some of his partners are cutting ties." Ethan walked over, dropping into the chair across from her. "We hit them hard, Evelyn. But it's not over yet. Marcus won't go down quietly." She nodded slowly. "I know. Men like him never do." For a moment, silence settled between them, a fragile peace in the aftermath of chaos. Evelyn thought about her father, his voice echoing in her mind. "Courage doesn't mean you don't feel fear, Evelyn. It means you face it even when your hands shake." Her hands were shaking now, but she wasn't afraid anymore. Suddenly Daniel's phone buzzed violently. He answered and his face went pale. "They found us," he whispered. "Marcus's men. They're already in the area." Ethan cursed under his breath, grabbing his gun. "How long do we have?" "Maybe minutes," Daniel replied. Evelyn closed her laptop, stood up and looked around the small safe house, the walls covered in maps, scattered documents and empty coffee cups. It wasn't just a hideout anymore. It was the last stand of truth. "We can't keep running," she said quietly. Ethan turned to her, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I mean we face him," she said, fire in her eyes. "If Marcus wants me, he can have me, but on my terms." Before anyone could argue, the sound of approaching vehicles roared through the rain. Headlights cut through the fog. The house trembled as black SUVs surrounded it from all sides. Armed men poured out, forming a perimeter. Ethan loaded his weapon. "You really want to do this?" Evelyn took a deep breath. "Yes, it ends tonight." She stepped outside before anyone could stop her. The rain soaked her instantly, but she didn't flinch. Dozens of red laser dots appeared on her chest. Across the driveway, a sleek car door opened, and out stepped Marcus Kane. Tall, composed, his grey hair slicked back, his expression colder than the storm. "Miss Carter," he said, voice smooth as silk. "You've caused quite a mess." Evelyn stood her ground. "You built this mess, Marcus. I just turned on the lights," he smirked. "Your father tried to do the same thing. Look where that got him." Her jaw tightened. "You killed him." He gave a slow shrug. "Let's just say, accidents happen to those who forget who's in charge." Ethan appeared beside her, weapon raised. "You're done, Kane. The evidence is already in the hands of the feds." Marcus's calm didn't waver. "Evidence can disappear. People can disappear. But power, Mr. Reed, power always finds a way back." Before he could signal his men, the sharp screech of sirens echoed in the distance. Dozens of them. Marcus's expression faltered for the first time. FBI SUVs swarmed the area, lights flashing, tires splashing through puddles. Agents jumped out, weapons drawn. Evelyn's voice was calm but cutting. "You were right about one thing, Marcus. Power finds a way back, when it belongs to the truth." Marcus turned toward her, fury in his eyes, but it was too late. The agents closed in, shouting orders. He was handcuffed, his empire collapsing in the flashing blue light. As he was led away, he gave Evelyn one last, venomous look. "You think you've won, but this world eats idealists alive." Evelyn stared at him, rain running down her face like tears she no longer needed to hide. "Maybe, but at least I'll die with a clean conscience, something you've never had." Marcus was shoved into the car, and the doors slammed shut. The air felt lighter, as if the city itself had exhaled. Ethan stepped closer to her. "It's over," he said softly. She looked up at the grey sky, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "No, it's just beginning." Days turned into weeks. Investigations expanded, arrests were made, and Titan Global's name became synonymous with corruption. The Carter Foundation, once shadowed by scandal, became a beacon for transparency and reform. Evelyn refused every interview and every talk show. She didn't want fame, only justice. One evening she returned to her father's grave, a small bouquet in her hands. The setting sun bathed the headstone in gold. She knelt and whispered, "I finished what you started, Dad. You were right. The truth always wins, even if it breaks you first. Behind her, footsteps approached. It was Ethan. He'd be proud of you, he said quietly. Evelyn smiled faintly. Maybe, but I think he'd tell me it's time to live now. Ethan extended a hand to help her up. Then let's live. As they walked away, the city skyline shimmered in the distance, no longer a symbol of greed and lies, but of second chances. The storm had passed, and for the first time in years, Evelyn Carter felt free, because sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself again.